The cowboy took in a girl branded as a thief. What she became left the whole town silent. The morning air, in the small frontier town, felt sharp and cold, like it carried secrets with every breath of wind. Wooden buildings stood in a long line along the dirt road, their doors still closed as the sun slowly climbed into the sky. Most people were just waking up, but one figure had been sitting there since before dawn. The girl sat near an old fence at the edge of the street, pulling her thin coat tight around her shoulders. Her hair was messy from sleeping in the open, and her hands were red from the cold. A small loaf of bread lay on the ground beside her, broken in half. It was the reason she was there. Earlier that morning someone had shouted. A shop owner had pointed at her and raised his voice, saying she had taken the bread without paying. The words had spread fast, like fire across dry grass. People came out of their homes and stores to look at her, not with questions, but with hard eyes and folded arms. She had tried to explain. Her voice had been quiet, and the wind had almost carried it away. She said she was hungry. She said she had no one. But no one had wanted to hear it. Now the street was quiet again, but the feeling of being watched had not gone away. Even behind closed doors she felt their eyes on her. She kept her head down and stared at the dirt, drawing small lines with a stick she found near her feet. She did not remember the last time she had felt safe. The girl had been on her own for a long time. Her family was gone, taken by sickness and hard times that did not care about age or kindness. Since then she had walked from place to place, hoping to find work, food, or even a kind word. Some towns turned her away before she could even speak. Others let her stay for a day or two, but never long. This town felt no different. A sound of hooves broke the silence. The girl looked up slowly. A horse walked down the road, its rider sitting tall in the saddle. The man wore a wide hat that shaded his face, and a long coat that moved with the wind. He looked like someone who had spent most of his life outdoors. He was the cowboy. Most people in town knew him, even if they did not know much about him. He came in once or twice a week to buy supplies. He spoke little, paid fare, and left. Some said he was unfriendly. Others said he was just quiet. No one really knew where he had come from or what his life had been like before he settled on his small ranch outside town. The cowboy slowed his horse when he saw the girl by the fence. He noticed the bread on the ground. He noticed the way she held her arms close to her body, like she was trying to make herself smaller. He did not ride past her like everyone else had. He stopped. The horse snorted softly as he leaned forward in the saddle. "You all right?" he asked, his voice low and steady. The girl did not answer right away. She had learned that talking often brought trouble. She looked at the ground instead. The cowboy waited. He did not rush her. He did not raise his voice. Finally she nodded once, even though it was not true. He climbed down from his horse and tied the reins to a post. He walked a few steps closer, keeping some space between them. "That bread yours?" he asked, pointing at the ground. Her shoulders tensed. She shook her head, then stopped, unsure. "I didn't mean to cause trouble," she said softly. "I was just hungry." The cowboy studied her face. He saw dirt on her cheeks and tiredness in her eyes. He did not see someone who looked proud or bold. He saw someone who looked worn down by the world. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small cloth bag. He opened it and took out a piece of dried meat and another piece of bread. He held them out to her. "For you," he said. She stared at the food like it might disappear if she reached for it. Slowly, she took it with shaking hands. "Thank you," she whispered. Somewhere behind a window a curtain moved. Someone was watching. The cowboy did not seem to care. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. Names could be used against you, but something in his voice felt different. "Lila," she said. "Well, Lila," he replied, "you got somewhere to go?" She shook her head. He looked down the street, then back at her. "I got a place outside town. It ain't much, but it's warm. You can rest there for a bit." Her eyes widened. "I don't want trouble," she said quickly. "They already don't like me." He gave a small shrug. "They don't have to like me either." Lila looked at the ground again. The idea of a warm place and a roof over her head felt like a dream. But dreams had fooled her before. The cowboy seemed to read her thoughts. "You don't gotta stay forever," he said. "Just for today." After a long moment, she stood up. Her legs felt weak, but she forced herself to stay upright. She nodded. They walked to the horse. He helped her up into the saddle first, then climbed up behind her. The town felt very quiet as they rode past. People stood in doorways now, not hiding their looks. Some shook their heads, some whispered to each other. Lila felt her face burn with shame, but the cowboy kept his eyes forward. The road out of town was narrow and lined with tall grass that moved like waves in the wind. The air smelled cleaner out here, like earth and sky instead of dust and wood. After some time, a small ranch came into view. It had a simple house, a barn that leaned slightly to one side, and a few fences that had seen better days. But to Lila, it looked like a palace. He helped her down from the horse and led her inside the house. The room was small but warm. A fire burned low in the stone hearth. A wooden table stood in the center, with 2 chairs on either side. "Sit," he said. She did. He poured water into a cup and set it in front of her. Then he placed a bowl of soup on the table. The smell made her stomach twist. She ate slowly, like she was afraid it might be taken away. The cowboy sat across from her, cleaning his boots with a cloth. When she finished, she leaned back and let out a small breath she didn't realize she had been holding.
"You can stay in the back room tonight," he said.
"There's a bed. It's old, but it's better than the ground." Her eyes filled with tears. She blinked them away fast. "That won't be a problem," she said. He gave a small smile. "Everyone's a problem sometimes."
"That's all right." Later that evening, the sky outside turned orange and pink.
Lila stood by the window and watched the sun go down. For the first time in a long while, she did not feel like she had to keep moving. But even in the quiet, her thoughts were loud. She wondered what would happen when the town found out she was staying here. She wondered if the cowboy would change his mind. In the other room, the cowboy sat at the table, thinking. He knew taking her in would not be easy. The town did not trust her, and by letting her stay, he had put himself in their line of sight. But he also knew what it was like to be alone. He had been alone for most of his life. That night the wind howled softly outside. The house creaked and settled. Lila lay on the old bed, staring at the ceiling. She clutched the blanket close to her chest. For the first time in a long time, she felt something she almost did not recognize. Hope. Morning came slowly at the small ranch, carried in by the soft sound of wind brushing against the tall grass outside. Pale sunlight slipped through the thin curtains and painted light lines across the wooden floor. Lila opened her eyes and stayed still for a moment, unsure where she was. Then she remembered the warm room, the quiet man, and the bed that did not feel like hard ground. Her chest lifted with a slow breath of relief. She sat up and rubbed her eyes. The blanket had slipped down during the night, and the air felt cool on her skin. She swung her feet to the floor and stood, feeling a little dizzy. She had not slept in a real bed for so long that her body did not quite trust it. From the other room, she heard a soft clatter of dishes and the low crackle of the fire. The smell of something warm drifted through the air. It made her stomach growl, and she pressed her hand against it, almost embarrassed by the sound. She stepped out of the small back room and into the main space. The cowboy stood at the table, pouring something into 2 cups. He looked up when he saw her. "Morning," he said. "Morning," she replied quietly. He slid one of the cups toward her.
"It's just tea."
"Helps wake you up." She wrapped her hands around the cup, feeling the warmth seep into her fingers. "Thank you," she said. They stood there for a moment, neither quite sure what to say. The silence did not feel heavy, just new. Finally, he nodded toward the door. "Got some work to do outside. You're welcome to help. Or you can rest more if you want." "I can help," she said quickly. She did not want to be a burden. Outside, the land stretched wide and open. The sky was clear, and the grass sparkled with morning dew. A few birds took off from the fence when they stepped into the yard. He handed her a small bucket. We'll start with the water barrel. Needs filling from the pump. They walked together to the old hand pump near the edge of the yard. He showed her how to work the handle. At first her arms felt weak, but she kept going. Water splashed into the bucket cold and clear. As they carried the bucket back, she felt something strange. It felt good to be doing something useful. The day passed in small tasks. They fixed a loose fence post, swept the barn floor, and fed the horse. The cowboy moved with quiet skill, and Lila tried to copy what he did. Sometimes she made mistakes, and when she did, she froze, waiting to be scolded. But he never raised his voice. He just showed her again. By midday, the sun was high, and sweat clung to her forehead. He brought out a plate of food, and they sat on the steps of the house to eat. The land stretched out in front of them, open and calm. "Where did you learn all this?" she asked, nodding toward the fences and the barn. He shrugged. "Picked it up over time. You learn when you don't got much else to do." She nodded, understanding more than she said. Later in the afternoon they heard a distant sound, wheels on dirt. A wagon. The cowboy looked up, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Town wagon," he said. Lila's heart started to beat faster. Her hands went cold. The wagon rolled up near the fence. A man and a woman sat at the front holding the reins. They did not smile. "We heard you took in that girl," the man said. The cowboy stood still. "She's here." The woman leaned forward. "People in town are talking. They don't like it." Lila stepped back, half hidden behind the cowboy. She felt small again, like she had the morning before. "She hasn't done anything wrong," the cowboy said. The man shook his head. "That's not what folks think. Supplies went missing last night." Lila gasped softly. "I didn't take anything," she said, her voice shaking. The woman looked at her, her face hard. "That's what you said last time, too." The cowboy took a step forward. "She's been here all day. I can vouch for that." The man and woman exchanged a look. The man sighed. "We're just warning you, town's not happy." They turned the wagon around and left. Lila's chest felt tight. "I should go," she said. "I don't want to cause trouble." The cowboy turned to her. "You didn't cause this. Fear did." "But they'll keep blaming me," she said. "Maybe," he replied, "or maybe they'll learn." That night Lila sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. The warmth of the ranch did not feel as safe anymore. The town felt close, even from far away. She remembered all the places she had left behind, all the doors that had closed. The next morning she woke up early. The sky was still dark. She packed the little she had into her small bag. She stepped into the main room. The cowboy was already awake, sitting at the table. "You're leaving," he said. She froze. "I didn't want to wake you." He stood. "Why? Because they won't stop," she said. "And I don't want them to turn on you." He walked closer. "Running won't change what they think." She looked down. "It's all I know how to do." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "You don't have to be alone here." She looked up, surprised. "Stay," he said. "Not because you owe me, but because you deserve a place where you don't have to keep looking over your shoulder." Tears filled her eyes. "What if they're right about me?" she asked. He shook his head. "I've seen who you are. That's enough for me." She let the bag slip from her hands. The days that followed were not easy. Sometimes people from town came by just to look. Sometimes they whispered. Lila felt their eyes even when she couldn't see them. But she kept working. She fixed fences. She helped with the horse. She cooked simple meals and cleaned the house. Little by little, the ranch started to feel like more than just a place to hide. One afternoon, while walking near the edge of the land, she found something on the ground. A small pouch. Inside were coins and a note with a shop's mark. Her heart pounded. This was what they had been talking about. She ran back to the house, her feet barely touching the ground. The cowboy looked up when she burst through the door. "I found this," she said, holding it out. He took it, his eyes scanning the note. "That's from the town store." She swallowed. I didn't take it. But now we can prove it.
They rode into town together!
The street went quiet when they arrived. People watched from their doors and windows. Lila walked to the store and held out the pouch. I found this near the fields, she said. I think someone dropped it. The shop owner stared at the pouch, then at her. He opened it and counted the coins. That's all of it, he said slowly. A murmur spread through the crowd. The cowboy stood beside her, silent. The shop owner cleared his throat. Looks like we were wrong. No one cheered. No one clapped. But the looks on their faces had changed. As they rode back to the ranch, Lila felt lighter. Not everything was fixed, but something had shifted. That evening she stood outside and watched the sky turn gold and purple. For the first time she did not feel like she was just passing through. She felt like she was becoming part of something. The morning sky was covered with soft gray clouds, and the air felt heavy, like it was holding its breath. Lila stood outside the house, tying a loose strap on the water bucket. Even though the town had returned the missing pouch and the shop owner had spoken for her, she could still feel the weight of people's thoughts pressing in from far away. Not everyone had changed their minds. The cowboy came out of the house with his hat in his hand. He looked at the sky. Might rain today, he said. Lila nodded. The plants will like that. He gave a small smile. You're learning. She felt a quiet pride in those words. A few weeks ago she had not even known how to work a hand pump. Now she could tell when the soil needed water and when the fence needed fixing. The ranch was starting to feel like a place she belonged, not just a place she stayed. They spent the morning checking the far fence line. The land stretched wide and open, and the grass swayed like waves in the wind. The sound of their boots on the dirt was steady and calm. As they walked, Lila spotted something moving near the hill. A small shape. Look, she said, pointing. The cowboy shaded his eyes. Looks like a calf. They hurried over. A young calf had wandered away from its herd and gotten stuck in a shallow dip in the ground. It bleated softly, its legs trembling as it tried to climb out. Lila knelt down and spoke gently to it, even though it could not understand her words. The cowboy found a sturdy branch and used it to help guide the calf up the slope. After a few careful tries, the calf scrambled free and ran off toward the distant herd. Lila laughed, a sound that surprised even her. The cowboy looked at her, then laughed too. For a moment the world felt simple. Later that day, a rider appeared on the road from town. Lila felt her chest tighten when she saw the familiar shape of a town messenger. He stopped at the gate and did not get off his horse. There's a meeting tonight, he said, at the main hall. The cowboy crossed his arms. About what? The messenger looked past him, at Lila. About her. Lila's stomach dropped. That evening they rode into town together. The hall was already full. People stood along the walls and filled the benches. The air buzzed with quiet talk that stopped when they entered. Lila stayed close to the cowboy. She felt small again, like she had on the first morning by the fence. A man stepped forward. We need to talk about what's going on, he said. We gave her a chance, but some folks still don't trust her.
A woman raised her hand. My neighbor says she saw her near the supply shed last night. Lila's heart pounded.
I was at the ranch all night, she said. I didn't go anywhere. The cowboy spoke. She was with me. Murmurs spread across the room. Another voice called out, That don't prove anything. Lila felt heat rush to her face. She wanted to disappear. Then an older man stood up slowly. He leaned on a cane and cleared his throat. We all been wrong before, he said. We were wrong about her once. Maybe we should think before we point fingers again. The room went quiet. After a long pause, the meeting ended with no real decision. People filed out, some nodding at Lila, others looking away. As they rode back to the ranch, the stars came out one by one. The night felt cold and wide. I'm sorry, Lila said softly. I thought things were getting better. They are, the cowboy replied. But change takes time. The next day brought rain. It fell in steady sheets, turning the dirt into soft mud. Lila and the cowboy worked inside, fixing a broken chair and sorting old tools. While they worked, the cowboy told her stories about his past. He spoke of traveling from place to place, working on ranches and farms, never staying long. He said he had learned not to expect much from people, just to do his work and move on. "Why did you stop here?" Lila asked. He paused.
I got tired of running. The word stayed with her. In the afternoon, they heard shouting outside.
Lila rushed to the door and saw smoke rising from the direction of the town. "Fire," the cowboy said. They did not think. They jumped on the horse and rode hard toward the town. When they arrived, people were running. A building near the edge of town was burning, flames licking up the side of the wooden walls. The heat pushed back against them like a solid thing. Lila saw a woman crying near the road. "My son is inside," the woman said. He ran back for his toy. Lila's breath caught. Before the cowboy could stop her, she ran. The smoke stung her eyes as she pushed through the door. The air inside was thick and dark. She dropped to her knees and crawled, calling out. "Hello!" she shouted. "I'm here." A small cough answered her. She followed the sound and found the boy huddled in a corner holding a wooden horse. She wrapped her arms around him. "It's okay," she said. "I've got you." She carried him back toward the door, her lungs burning. The cowboy was there, reaching for them. He took the boy from her and rushed him outside. The crowd went silent as they watched the boy reunited with his mother. Lila stumbled out after them, coughing. Someone handed her water. She drank, her hands shaking. People looked at her differently now. Not with doubt, not with fear, with something like respect. The fire was put out before it could spread. The building was damaged, but still standing. The woman hugged Lila tightly. "Thank you," she said. "I don't know what I would have done." Lila did not know what to say. She just nodded. That night, back at the ranch, she sat on the steps and stared at the stars. Her body was tired, but her mind was wide awake. The cowboy sat beside her. "You didn't have to do that," he said. "I couldn't just stand there," she replied. He looked at her for a long moment. "You're braver than you think." In the days that followed, things began to change in small ways. A man from town brought them extra feed for the horse. A woman left a basket of bread by the gate. No one made a big show of it. But the gestures mattered. One afternoon, Lila walked into town alone for the first time. Her heart beat fast, but she kept her head up. The shop owner nodded at her. "Good to see you," he said. A group of children waved. She walked back to the ranch with a light step. That evening she told the cowboy about it. He listened quietly, then tipped his hat. "Told you. Takes time." Lila lay in bed that night, thinking about everything that had happened. The fire, the boy, the way people looked at her now. She realized something had changed inside her too. She no longer felt like a shadow moving from place to place. She felt solid, real. The ranch was no longer just a place to hide. It was home. The morning sun rose over the ranch in soft shades of gold, spilling light across the wooden fences and the tall swaying grass. Lila woke to the sound of birds singing and the gentle movement of the cowboy preparing for the day. She rubbed her eyes and felt a quiet excitement mixed with a little nervousness. Today felt different, though. She could not explain why. She stepped outside and saw the cowboy brushing down the horse. "Morning," he said, tipping his hat. "Morning," she replied. She felt lighter than usual. The last few weeks had been hard, but she was learning, growing, and slowly becoming part of something bigger than herself. "Got a few things to do today," the cowboy said.
"Help me with the barn first?" Lila nodded. She picked up a broom and started sweeping.
The barn smelled of hay and horses, a scent she had begun to associate with safety. As she worked, she thought about the town, about the people who had once turned their backs on her. Their whispers and cold looks had not disappeared entirely, but she felt stronger now, more confident. After finishing the barn, the cowboy led her toward the far pasture. There were cows grazing, and a few horses were tied nearby. "Let's check the fences," he said. "One of them looks loose after last night's wind." As they walked, Lila noticed something unusual. Near the edge of the pasture, the grass moved unnaturally. A small boy was running across the field, laughing, chasing after a goat that had escaped its pen. His mother called after him from a distance, her voice worried. Suddenly, the boy tripped and fell. He cried out as the goat ran further away. Lila's heart leapt. Without thinking, she ran toward him. Her feet barely touched the ground as she scooped him up, holding him tight. "Are you okay?" she asked gently. The boy nodded, wiping tears from his cheeks. Lila carried him back toward his mother. The woman's eyes widened when she saw her son safe in Lila's arms. "Thank you," she exclaimed, hugging both of them. The cowboy watched quietly, a small smile on his face. Lila felt a warmth spread inside her chest. Moments like this reminded her of why she had stayed, why she had chosen not to run when fear whispered at her mind. After returning the boy safely, they continued their work. The cowboy showed her how to repair the fence properly, tying knots and checking the posts. Lila listened carefully, doing her best to copy each movement. She made mistakes, but the cowboy guided her patiently, never scolding, only encouraging. By midday, the sun was high and the ranch was alive with sounds. The gentle neighing of horses, the low moo of cows, the rustling of the grass in the breeze. They paused for lunch under a large oak tree. Lila unwrapped a small loaf of bread while the cowboy poured water from a canteen into a tin cup.
"You're getting stronger," he said. "And faster, too."
"You've got a good sense for the land." Lila smiled.
"I've learned from the best," she replied. She felt proud, a feeling she hadn't known in years.
The afternoon brought unexpected news. A rider appeared on the horizon, galloping toward the ranch. As the figure drew closer, Lila recognized the messenger from town. He pulled up near the gate holding a note. The cowboy dismounted. "What is it?" he asked. The messenger handed over the note and tipped his hat. "Town council wants to see her. They say it's urgent." Lila's stomach twisted. Even with all she had done to prove herself, it seemed the town still doubted her. The cowboy placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You'll be fine," he said. "I'll go with you."
Together they rode into town. The streets were quieter than usual, but a small crowd had gathered near the council hall.
People whispered as they passed, glancing at Lila with mixed expressions: curiosity, doubt, and a hint of respect. Inside the hall, the council members waited. Some sat stiffly at the table, while others leaned forward, watching her closely. The room smelled of wood and paper, the air heavy with anticipation. One of the council members spoke first. "We have heard about your actions recently," he said, his voice formal. "Your efforts to help the boy and others have not gone unnoticed." Lila felt her heart beat faster. She wanted to speak, to tell them how grateful she was for the chance to be part of the town, but the words seemed trapped in her throat. Another member leaned forward. "However," he continued, "some in the town still feel uncertain. We need to hear from you directly. How do you intend to show that you are here to contribute and not to cause trouble?" Lila straightened, feeling the weight of every eye on her. She took a deep breath. "I came here to work, to help, and to learn," she said. "I don't want to take anything from anyone. I just want to belong, to be part of something good. I want to help the town just like you've all helped me by giving me a chance." The room fell silent. The words seemed to hang in the air, heavier than any accusation could have been. The council members exchanged glances, and the whispers faded. One older man stood slowly, leaning on a cane. "She speaks honestly," he said. "I've watched her over the past weeks. She is careful, she works hard, and she cares for others. I believe she deserves a chance." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. The tension eased. The council decided to allow her to continue living on the ranch, with the understanding that she would help the town whenever possible. As they left the hall, Lila felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The townspeople still watched, but their eyes were softer now. Some nodded, some smiled faintly. The road back to the ranch felt lighter under her feet. When they arrived home, the cowboy opened the gate, letting the horses out to graze. Lila watched them run across the pasture. their movements free and strong. She felt a sense of freedom herself, a feeling she had not known in years. That evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Lila and the cowboy sat on the porch. The sky glowed with warm orange and pink tones, reflecting on the quiet land around them. Lila leaned back, letting the day's events sink in. "Thank you," she said softly, "for believing in me even when no one else did." The cowboy tipped his hat with a small smile. "Sometimes all someone needs is a chance. You've made the most of it." Lila looked out at the horizon, feeling a sense of belonging she had never known before. The town might have doubted her, but she had proven to herself that she could rise above fear and suspicion. She had found courage in helping others, strength in learning new skills, and comfort in the quiet trust she had built with the cowboy. As night fell, the ranch grew calm. The fire in the hearth flickered softly, casting shadows across the walls. Lila lay in her bed, thinking of the day's events. She thought of the boy she had saved, the council members who had listened, and the townspeople whose glances had softened. For the first time in a long time, she felt truly seen, not as a thief or an outsider, but as someone capable of kindness, courage, and change. The cowboy's quiet presence beside her room gave her comfort. She knew that whatever challenges came next, she would face them with strength and honesty. The road ahead was not without difficulty, but she was no longer afraid. She had a home, a purpose, and the trust of someone who believed in her. And in that moment, as the stars began to dot the night sky, Lila felt a sense of peace. She belonged. She was no longer just surviving. She was living. The ranch, the cowboy, and the open land had given her something priceless: hope, and a chance to become the person she was always meant to be. The morning air on the ranch was crisp and calm. Lila stepped outside, the grass wet with dew, and took a deep breath. She felt a quiet excitement mingled with nervousness. Today was different. Something inside her told her that the town, the people who had once doubted her, were about to see who she truly was. The cowboy was already outside feeding the horses. He looked up when he saw her and gave a small nod. "Ready?" he asked. Lila nodded back. She had spent weeks learning the land, helping with chores, and proving herself on the ranch. But today she would do something that mattered to the entire town. Something that would show them she was more than the rumors and doubts that had followed her. They rode together into town, the horses' hooves kicking up soft clouds of dust on the dirt road. The streets were lined with people, watching. Some faces were curious, some skeptical. A few had softened with time. Lila's heart beat faster, but she held her head high. She had grown stronger, braver, and she felt ready. The town square was bustling. A fire had broken out at the edge of town a few days ago, and the town council had called for volunteers to help rebuild. Lila had volunteered at the ranch, but today she was leading a group of helpers to bring supplies, repair fences, and fix the walls of the damaged buildings. The first task was to help carry heavy bundles of wood from the storage shed to the fire-damaged building. Lila grabbed a bundle, struggling at first but then finding her rhythm. She moved steadily, keeping pace with the cowboy, who occasionally guided her or handed her tools. A small group of townspeople watched from the edge of the square. Some whispered among themselves. "She's really working," one said. "And helping the children, too." Lila overheard the comment, but she did not let it shake her. She focused on her work. She tied the wood securely, lifted it carefully, and placed it where it was needed. Later, a child ran up to her, holding a broken wheel from a cart. "Can you fix it?" the boy asked. Lila smiled. "I'll try," she said. She knelt down and inspected the wheel. She tightened the loose spokes, replaced the small broken pieces with parts she had brought, and soon the wheel was sturdy again. The boy clapped his hands and hugged her. "Thank you," he said. The townspeople noticed. Some nodded. Some exchanged quiet glances. The whispers of doubt were slowly replaced with quiet respect. By midday, the sun was high in the sky and the heat pressed down on everyone working in the square. Lila and the cowboy took a short break, drinking water and wiping sweat from their brows. The cowboy looked at her. "You're doing well," he said. Lila smiled. I couldn't have done this without you, she replied.
You've done most of it on your own, he said, tipping his hat. I just guide.
You're the one doing the work.
The afternoon brought a more challenging task.
A section of the damaged building's roof had to be repaired before the next storm. Lila climbed up carefully, the wood rough under her hands. She worked alongside the town's carpenters, measuring, hammering, and adjusting planks. A man from the council, who had once doubted her, watched closely. She knows what she's doing, he muttered to a neighbor. She's careful, quick, and smart about it. Lila noticed the shift in how people looked at her. Eyes that had been filled with suspicion were now filled with something closer to admiration. She felt a sense of pride, not in herself, but in the trust she had earned. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, they finished the repairs. The building stood strong, ready for the next storm. The townspeople gathered around, looking at Lila with new eyes. The councilman who had once doubted her stepped forward. You've done more than we expected, he said. You've shown courage, care, and skill. We owe you our thanks. Lila felt her cheeks flush, but she kept her gaze steady.
I didn't do it for thanks, she said. I did it because I wanted to help.
I wanted to be part of the town, not apart from it. A quiet murmur ran through the crowd. The same people who had once whispered, "She's a thief," now nodded and smiled. Some even clapped. It was not loud, but it was meaningful. That evening, the cowboy and Lila rode back to the ranch. The sky was painted in soft shades of pink and orange. The air smelled of earth and grass, fresh after a day of work.
You did good today, the cowboy said.
We did it together, Lila replied. She looked out at the land, feeling calm and happy. The ranch felt warmer than ever. Lila walked inside and cleaned her hands at the small basin, thinking about everything that had happened. The fire, the rebuilding, the way the town had changed its view of her. She thought about how far she had come from sitting alone by the fence on that cold morning. That night the cowboy joined her by the fire. The stars were bright above them, scattered across the sky like tiny lanterns. You've changed a lot, he said quietly. Not just in what you can do, but in how people see you, and how you see yourself. Lila smiled softly. I didn't realize it before. I thought I was just surviving, but now I feel like I'm living. And maybe I belong somewhere, after all. The cowboy nodded. You do. You belong here, and you've earned every bit of trust and respect you've received. Not because you're perfect, but because you tried, worked hard, and helped others. That's what matters. Lila leaned back, feeling a warmth that went deeper than the fire. She thought about the boy she had helped, the townspeople who had watched her, and the quiet support of the cowboy. She realized that she had found something precious: acceptance, belonging, and a chance to make a difference. Over the next few weeks, Lila continued to help on the ranch and in town. She repaired fences, tended to animals, helped the children, and worked with the carpenters. Every action, no matter how small, strengthened the bond between her and the townspeople. They began to include her in discussions, ask for her advice, and seek her help when needed. The town that had once whispered her name with suspicion now recognized her courage, honesty, and hard work. And the girl who had once been alone, labeled a thief, now had a place where she was valued and respected. One afternoon, a group of children ran up to her with baskets of apples. For you, they said, smiling. You helped us, so we brought some for you. Lila laughed, a light, happy sound. She accepted the baskets gratefully and handed out pieces to the animals. The ranch felt alive with movement, voices, and laughter. The cowboy watched her, leaning on the fence, and felt a quiet pride. He had given her a chance, yes, but it was her own courage and kindness that had brought this change. As the sun began to set, Lila and the cowboy stood together at the edge of the pasture. The sky was a brilliant orange and gold, stretching across the horizon. The land seemed to breathe with peace and calm. I never thought I'd see the day when I'd feel like this, Lila said softly. Safe, accepted, and like I belong.
You earned it, the cowboy said, and you've given the town a chance to see who you really are.
That's something no one can take away. Lila took a deep breath and let the wind brush across her face. She thought about the long journey, the fear, the cold nights, the doubts, and the work. And she realized that every step, every struggle had led her here. The town, the ranch, the people. Her life had changed. She had changed. And as the stars appeared in the night sky, twinkling softly above the quiet land, Lila felt a peace that went beyond words. She knew she had found her home. She knew she had found trust, respect, and friendship. And most importantly, she knew that she had found herself. The cowboy beside her gave a quiet nod, as if to say, "This is just the beginning." Lila smiled, looking out at the open land. She was no longer just a girl labeled by the town. She was a part of something larger, something alive, strong, and full of possibility. The night wrapped around the ranch gently, and for the first time in her life, Lila felt truly free. She had faced fear, earned trust, and shown the world the best of herself. And in return, the world had given her something invaluable, a place to belong, a chance to grow, and the knowledge that she could overcome anything with courage, heart, and determination.